NFR, feel the speed, the thrill, high octane drama can't get off fill. Engines roaring loud, heartbeats on the rise. On NFR, see the sparks in our eyes. Racing through the night, chasing every turn. On NFR, adrenaline we burn. Pit stops and fast cars, it's a wild ride. NFR, in our veins we can't hide. NFR, feel the rush, feel the speed. Formula One dreams, we take the lead. On NFR, we're flying high. Under the lights, we touch the sky. Yeah. Every lap a story, every driver's dream. On NFR, racing's the supreme. Checkered flags waving, champions arise. NFR brings the glory to our eyes. NFR, where the legends are born. Speeding past the limits, engines reborn. In the fast lane, every second counts. NFR, the thrill always mounts. NFR, feel the rush, feel the speed. Formula One dreams, we take the lead. On NFR, we're flying high. Under the lights, we touch the sky. NFR with the rush, feel the speed. Formula One dreams, we take the lead. On NFR's lane, every second counts. NFR, the thrill always mounts. NFR, feel the rush, feel the speed. Formula One dreams, we take the lead. On NFR, we're flying high. Under the lights, we touch the sky. You move to NFR, feel the speed. You move to Sunday night, 6 p.m. Oh yeah, engines roar, lights go dim. Yeah. Drama's high, hearts are race. Ooh. Feel the heat, feel the pace. Oh yeah, speed and thrill, never slow. Zoom. Champions rise, they all know. In the night, we come alive. SKR, we will drive. SKR at 6. Feel the rush, feel the kicks. On the track, we survive. SKR, we thrive. Tires burn on the bends. Rivals clash, no amends. Oh no, cheering crowd, feel the sound. SKR, world renowned. Dayton's night, under lights. Oh yeah, every turn, every fight. Pulses racing, here we go. SKR, steal the show. Rev it up, race it fast. Living dreams as we blast. On this night, we won't rest. SKR, we're the best. SKR at 6. Feel the rush, feel the kicks. On the track, we survive. SKR, we thrive. burn, rivals clash, no amends. Oh no, cheering crowd, feel the sound. Woohoo! SKR, world renowned. Renowned! They're the best! NFR, it's time to go. Feel the speed, let it flow. Racing hearts, watch them glow. Turn it up, start the show. NFR, feel the heat. Fast and fierce, never beats. Engines roar, can't stay off seats. Catch the thrill, it's so sweet. NFR, NFR. Drama high, stars afar. Round the track like a shooting star. Feel the rush, NFR. Lap by lap, watch them spin. Go, victory's close. Who will win? In our heads, the engine's din. NFR, let's begin. NFR, lights roaring, speed and drama every turn on NFR, the rubber burns. Feel the thrill of every bend, where the champions transcend. Feel the power at NFR, burning tracks, driving far, where the races never end. NFR, only friend. Fernando calls the play on NFR every race day. Commentary sharp and loud, hyping up the roaring crowd. Feel the power at NFR, burning tracks, driving far, where the races never end. NFR, only friend. Now Fernando calls the play on NFR race day. Commentary sharp and loud, hyping up the roaring crowd. Feel the power at NFR, burning tracks, driving far, where the races never end. NFR, only friend. Deaf Queen, the top supporter, see in the crowd where speed is keen. NFR, the place to be. Join the race, watch and see. Engines roar, the lights are bright. Sunday night, the crowd takes flight. Drama on the curse tonight. SKR feels so right. Speed and skill, hold on tight. Every turn, hearts ignite. Racers chase the checkered flag. No one's pulling any lag. Just race, just drive, SKR alive. Push the limits, feel the vibe. Racers give it all they got. Sunday night is burning hot. Oh! Oh! Wheels are spinning, adrenaline high. Twists and turns, we touch the sky. Competition fierce and true. Every point's a breakthrough. Wheel of spirit and under stars. Tension thick, no one's far. Destiny is in the driver's hands. Take the lead, take a stand. Just race, just drive, SKR alive. Push the limits, feel the vibe. Racers give it all they've got. Sunday night is burning hot. Oh! Crowds cheering under stars, tension thick, no one's far. Destiny is in the driver's hands. Take the lead, take a stand. Just race, just drive, SKR alive. Push the limits, feel the vibe. Racers give it all they've got. Sunday night is burning hot. Oh! Just burning hot. Feel the speed, the thrill, high octane drama can't get off fill. Engines roaring loud, heart making counts. NFR, the thrill always mounts. NFR, feel the rush, feel the speed. Formula One dreams, we take the lead. On NFR, we're flying high. Under the lights, we touch the sky. You move to NFR, feel the speed, the speed. Sunday night, 6 p.m. Oh yeah, engines roar, lights go dim. Yeah, drama's high, hearts are race. Feel the heat, feel the pace. Oh yeah, speed and thrill, never slow. Zoom, zoom. Champions rise, they all know. In the night, we come alive. SKR, we will drive. SKR at 6. Feel the rush, feel the kicks. On the track, we survive. SKR, we thrive. Tires burn on the bends. Rivals clash, no amends. Oh no, cheering crowd, feel the sound. SKR, world renowned. Dayton's night, under lights. Oh yeah, every turn, every fight. Pulse is racing, here we go. SKR, steal the show. Rev it up, race it fast. Living dreams as we blast. On this night, we won't rest. SKR, we're the best. SKR at 6. Feel the rush, feel the kicks. On the track, we survive. SKR, we thrive.
His impressive Formula One career at the 1994 Australian GP. Mansell would
Good evening, everybody.
1995 season, but missed the opening
Welcome back.
due to not being able
Welcome back to NFR.
He would go on to race until
Welcome back to Sunday night with SKR. Of course, round 3 of season 9. And we are in Albert Park in Melbourne, Australia. Busy field, as you can see there on the left-hand side. 18 drivers taking part. We might still see 1 or 2 squeezing through before the race. Just some confirmation in the comment section from Ronald that it will be a dry race. So no concerns over weather as we go into this evening's race. There are 2 drivers somewhere in there that unfortunately don't have a teammate. I think one of them is Ronald. Who else is missing a teammate? No, there is 2 Alpines, there is 2 Aston Martins, 2 Williams, 2 Ferraris, 2 Red Bulls, 2 RBs. I think we're missing a Haas, 2 Red Bulls. So we're missing 1 Haas, 1 Sauber. Everybody else is here this evening. Already a busy race circuit, just 5 cars remaining in the pits. Everybody else out on track. Remember, it is just a short quali, so just the 18 minutes for everybody to get around here. When you do have a very busy lobby like this, can get pretty packed around the circuit. Don't want to find yourself in a situation where your one and only true attempt gets hindered by a slower car. Need to make sure that this first lap counts. No such thing as banker laps. Let's see how many cars are in this train, and now the car's just having to really slow down. Everybody just trying to make their own little space on the race circuit. You don't want anyone to catch up to you. You also don't want to run into anybody. It seems like everybody's given themselves a decent amount of space. It happens sometimes at the end there, you just really need to slow down. You don't have the optimal tyre temperature you would have liked going into turn 1. That was a Red Bull getting far out of the way. This is the RB of Smurf. Of course, speaking of RB and Australia, well, Danny Rick, he has been sent on his way. Already rumours of Danny Rick and IndyCar links. Already rumours of him with Australian V8 supercar links. We definitely have not seen the last of Danny Rick. Don't think we're going to see him in a Formula 1 car again. Andre sets the fastest lap so far, 1:17.5, and it's short-lived. Martin 1:17.3, so the lap time's starting to come in. Rees goes over the line, 17.1. They're just getting better and better into tenths of a second increments. As I say that, Spikes pops it into the 16s, first driver to do so. Still a lot of quick drivers down the field that we're waiting to see lap times from. One of those drivers, it's Ferrari, also Pantry Star. Lots of quick names out of position at the moment. Levy yet to set a lap time. We have Joe Kutsia in P16. I'm not sure if that is a debutant. I'm not sure, I haven't commentated on that name before unless he's changed his driver name. He is a driver on debut. First lap 1:32.7. Only 10 of the 18 drivers have set lap times. We're still waiting for the likes of Conboy. Right on board with him now as he comes to the end of that first run. Let's see what he's able to come up with. Should be one of your favourites for the race. Goes over the line, and that's why I say he's a favourite. Goes up into P2 on his first run, and immediately that P3, Weeze has improved, 1:16.8. Got 2 drivers in the 16.8. Now Levy P3. Told you he was out of position. Pantry start to the top of the field. 16.5 is that. Time's getting quicker and quicker. Top Gun returning to the pits without a lap time. That's when the pressure can start to mount. You invalidate that first run, or you make a big mistake, pick up damage, come into the pits without any sort of lap time. When everybody else is having their second run looking to improve, you're just looking to get on the timesheet. You can build up the pressure. This is one of the quicker drivers in the field, another one of the drivers we expect at the top of the field. It's Faree, currently at the rear of the field, no lap time from him as of yet. Full lobby, but unfortunately for Ronald, no teammate. Where is it? Faree, he's coming to the end of his lap, goes past the car there on the outside, not sure what that was very quick, but gets out of the way. It's Faree, will go over the line. It's good enough for P4, it's a 16.9. Not so long ago it would have been good enough for P1. Now there's a whole lot of 16s. 16.5 Pantry Star, 16.8 Wheeze, 16.8 Spikes, 16.9. It's Faree. Close stuff at the front. Just confirmation that Joe is indeed on debut. Slowest of the timed drivers so far, still waiting for laps from, well, I was about to say waiting for laps from Bloodshed, but he's just gone over the line into P7, nicely done. Also another name I'm not too familiar with. Is he also on debut? Now two drivers yet to set lap times. One of them is Divan in the RB. Then in the sister car to the RB, or the senior car, the Red Bull, P17, no lap time, so now Top Gun the only man without a lap. Divan has gone over the line, it's an 18.3, good enough for P14. Some drivers in the pits, some drivers on out laps, everyone out of sync. Such a lot of drivers here. Got to find your own bubble on the circuit, find your own space. Some drivers have gone around without setting a lap time, so they'll be out of position with the rest of the drivers while they'll be looking for laps to improve or laps to defend. They'll be looking to get on the timesheets. It's only Top Gun now yet to get onto the timesheets. Everybody else has achieved that feat. You will bring up your tyre screen. No surprises there. Everybody on the soft compound. Reason I do bring it up is it gives you an idea of who's on what tyres and who might still have a little more in their pocket. Of course, when you see a driver who's trying to go as quick as he absolutely can, you'll see he'll go out, he'll do one lap on the softs, he'll come back in, put on a new set of softs. If you see a driver having multiple laps on the same set of softs, especially in a short quali, means he's saving up tyres and he's saving up a lap time for the end. Because not only are those tyres not supreme after 3 or 4 laps, you also have to be carrying a whole lot more fuel than you should for a quali lap. So Kutsia at the moment at the rear of the field, but I think he's still got a lot more to come. Same goes for Skull, same goes for Harsh Cartoon. Doing more than just the one lap on a set of tyres, so they've got more to come. When they put that fresh rubber on, it's going to give them just that little bit extra grip. Just able to find a 10th here and a 10th there, and by the time you get over the line, makes quite the difference. Convoy 16.3, quickest lap we've seen today by 0.2 of a second, goes ahead of Pantry Star. That man currently on an out lap, looking to get his P1 back. Of course, Martin in the pits, he's currently in P3, strong position for him. Wheeze goes over the line, 16.1, retakes P1. He's been there a few times, he's been trading places with that P1, the times have just been getting quicker and quicker. Now Pantry Star in P3, 16.5, we're not going to see a lap time from him. He's coming into the pits. Or is he coming into the pits? I think I read that wrong. Bad camera angle. Where is Pantry Star? He is on an out lap. Has his teammate set a lap time? Yes, he has. Top Gun has gone over the line. 18-0. Good enough for P13. Welcome to Visor. In the comments. Support for the Williams team. Andre and Skull currently P9, P11. He's currently the fastest driver. Levy has gone P2, Convoy P3, Pantry Star. We're waiting to see an improvement from him. This was the man in pole position not so long ago, but since then the times have come down a long way. If he wants to take pole position back, he's going to have to find just under half a second to be safe. And remember, there's still one or two drivers out there looking to go a little quicker. Joe has done several laps on the softs. His best time was a 25.3. He's at the rear of the field and now he's got a set of mediums. So we'll keep our eyes on that car. I'm sure he's going to come out and have another run. This is Pantry Star. He's finishing off what should be his final run. And he does improve. Not enough. It's a 16.3. Goes up into P2. Who else is still out on track? We've got Spikes out on circuit. It's Free out on circuit as well as Divan. It's just the three drivers on quick laps. And we've got Bloodshed, Top Gun and Joe Kitsia all on out laps. Interesting to me that Joe has gone out for that second run on a set of mediums. Keep your eyes on that Ferrari. Does he know something we don't know? This is the other Ferrari, currently in P6, 116.8. Looking for something better than the third row. Wouldn't be a bad place to start. When the field is this big, you usually want to start at the front or the back. Spikes improves up into P2. It's a 16.2. How close is that? Needed to beat a 16.1. Managed to get himself a 16.2. Wheeze and Spikes, a tenth of a second, covers the front row. Then the second row, well, that's 4 thousandths of a second. 4 thousandths of a second. 5 thousandths of a second rather, covering the second row. We got Convoy and Martin on the third row. It's Free and Bloodshed on the fourth row. And the first of the Williams, Andre, P9. Then the two RBs, Divan and Smurf, 10-11. Skull, P12. Still a bit of time for the drivers to have one more run. Got a few drivers on out laps. Convoy, Martin, Harsh Cartoon, Ronald, Chums, all looking for improvements. Top Gun also out on circuit. I think that's a quick lap. Or spent much of the beginning of the session looking for a lap. That's not a quick lap. He's speeding off into the pits, so the best that he will be able to get is P14. I don't think there's enough time to get in there and get back out. The pit crew's a little too slow for that. Activates DRS. Spikes. I think he's on his way back to the pits. Very nice lap time for him. 16.2. This is Harsh Cartoon. One of the two Mercedes. His teammate up in P6. Him down in P13. Looking to get closer to his teammate. Possibly beat his teammate. It's what almost every driver wants. First target, beat your teammate. Wheeze goes even quicker. So Am I reading that correctly? I don't want to read that until I'm sure I'm reading that correctly. I think I am reading that correctly. That's a 15-7. So Weeze just stamping his authority on proceedings. If you thought it was going to be close, think again. He's put 5/10 on the rest of the field. 5/10 translated, well, that's half a second. Half a second to the rest of the field. That's more than we're used to seeing. Still a few drivers out on track that can change that sort of gap, close it up, maybe still put Weeze under pressure. What a lap time by the Aston Martin. 15.7, half a second quicker than anything we've seen all night. Time continues to tick down. Now we've just got 1 minute remaining. So if you're in the pits, your session is done. If you're on an outlap, you need to get on with it. Of course, everyone who crosses that start finish line before the time is up will be allowed to finish their lap. Of course, if you don't get there in time, that's the end of your quali session. So hopefully you haven't left things too late. This is Levy, another one of the drivers in contention for a race victory later on tonight. Extremely quick driver, but does anybody have anything for the man on provisional pole? It's going to take something very special. In the case of Levy, you'd have to find 8/10 of a second. It's the better part of a second. That's the sort of domination the Aston Martin has shown. Levy sees no improvement on the cards. He decides to abandon the lap, pulls off into the pits. Pantry Star still out on track. It's Ferrari still out on track. And Convoy also returning to the pits. No improvement on the cards. It's Ferrari. I think he's done his lap. Who else is still out on track? It's Bloodshed looking for an improvement on his P9 on debut. Where will he be able to put this McLaren? Does improve just by the one position, but nicely done. 16.5 goes up into P8 on debut. The other debutant, Joe Katsia, at the rear of the field, but doing something a little different in qualifying. Keep your eyes on that car for the race. Of course, he's going to have all sorts of tyres saved up. So that is the end of qualifying. Of course, now we head off straight into the race. Just a short quali session, just the 18 minutes that has come to an end. So now it's all about the race. Concentration changes direction. Let's get through these results quickly. Weeze takes pole position, nicely done. Convoy P2. Then it's Ferrari, Spikes, Pantry Star, Levy, Martin, Bloodshed, Divan, Andre, Bosch Cartoon, Smurf, Ronald, Skull. Go down a little further than Top Gun 15, Chum 16, Disguised Bear 17, and Joe Katsia on debut, starting from the rear of the field. Of course, I said attention would now change. In qualifying, all the attention was on getting the absolute quickest lap possible in the race. Yes, it's all about speed. It's also about a whole bunch of other factors. Of course, staying out of contact, making sure your nose stays clean, staying out of any possible drama. And if we do see any safety cars, well, then it's not all in your hands. Even the quickest drivers can lose out. on a night of multiple safety cars. So the script still yet to be written. Nothing is decided. Don't worry too much about the lap times you saw in qualifying. Even if that does translate to race pace, safety car sometimes has the final say. Saw a few drivers struggling at the beginning of, should get the dual green lights, we do. Saw a couple of drivers struggling at the beginning of qualifying, at least with their initial runs, to get a lap time down. I'm going to assume they were getting invalidated laps, so that's something to watch out for in the race. Of course, in qualifying, your lap just gets cancelled. In the race, every time you go over that line, you're going to get yourself a little warning. Every time you get yourself 3 of those warnings, you get 3 seconds worth of penalties. Those can easily rack up to 3, 6, 9 and beyond. And if you have a late safety car in the race where the field isn't able to spread out again, anyone with those sort of penalties basically kiss a good result goodbye. So important to keep it clean, stay out of damage, stay out of any potential drama. I think we'll see too much of it at the front. Everybody knows it's early on in the race and you just got to get through turn 1 in the midfield and towards the rear. Things can get messy. 18 drivers, every one of them except the leader, looking to make up positions, while all the drivers will be looking to make up positions. Wees will just be looking towards turn 1. He'll know exactly where he's going to brake for turn 1, how he plans to turn in for turn 1. It's all about the start. Mr. McLaren able to get alongside him and ruin that preferred run into turn 1. Do have a DSQ for Convoy, don't be too alarmed. That just means he didn't get his parking right. What does happen there is the car gets pushed back slightly in its box. He will have a slight disadvantage at the start. We've got a terrible camera angle at the start, but we do hear the red lights. There's 5 of them. And when they go off, we'll go off. And off we go. Wees versus Convoy. We wait for a better camera angle. Wees had to come across the track to defend. The fact that McLaren did get a good start, not good enough. It's going to be Wees versus Convoy out of turn 1. It's Ferrari in P3, then Spikes P4, Pantry Star. He's actually trading places with Spikes as we speak. A Red Bull and a Ferrari going side by side on lap 1. Then just behind them you've got Martin versus Levy, 6 and 7. Divan and Andre, 8 and 9. Harsh Cartoon in P10, but still so long to go. Here is Ronald, P11, just outside the points. Then almost said the pair of Red Bulls, but it's just because those icons look incredibly similar. Top Gun P12. Then the McLaren of Bloodshed. I think he qualified up in P8, had a good debut qualifying, but he has slipped down earlier in the race, maybe just getting overwhelmed by the field. Of course, so many drivers at the start, everybody looking to make up a position. Sometimes you lose one position, it turns into many positions. Bringing up your tyre screen at the end of lap 1, no real surprises there, no soft tyres, nobody trying out the softs. I think they just wouldn't last very much around this circuit. Seems a majority of the drivers have gone with the medium. The other few have gone with the hard. Of course, drivers with the medium, they'll be pitting earlier. Drivers with the hard will be going longer into this race. That is, if everything goes according to plan. Of course, any sort of stoppage in the race, we'll see drivers coming into the pits, throwing out those initial strategies. Wheeze leads the way, Convoy P2, we've got a flashing yellow flag, hopefully that's all it is. It's Free in P3, these three now getting away from the rest of the field in the early stages. Spikes P4 with a bit of a queue starting to form behind him. He's got Pantry Star and Martin the Brain behind him. This is now Martin just behind the Ferrari. And Pantry Star has just cleared Spikes. Nicely done. Further down, Levy at the rear of that. That will soon be a DRS train, then Divan. Actually not far off either, so that's a long DRS train from P4 down to P8. Everybody very, very close together. Then Andre in P9, Hoshkatu in P10, Ronald still just outside the points in P11. Then the second of the two Williams. That's Skull P12, Chums 13, Smurf 14. Then Bloodshed, not the start he would have wanted, he's down in P15. Disguised Bear, also one of the newer names, he's in 16. Then Joe, remember he had a pretty different looking qualifying session, did multiple laps on the soft tyre, then did a few laps on the medium, qualified at the rear of the field. And now, if I'm not mistaken, that Ferrari is not in good shape. And that's confirmation of that. Just unable to get around that right-hander. Obviously, no grip at the front, no downforce rather at the front. And these cars go from being quite amazing to drive to quite useless to drive when they're missing a few bits. And having the whole wing missing, well, that's more than just a few bits. Still not at the very rear of the field though, that goes to Top Gun, so I think Top Gun has made an early pit stop. Fastest lap of the race, Convoy has taken over at the lead, followed currently by the two Aston Martins. Wheeze has been the class of the field in qualifying, he led for the first 2 or 3 laps. Now Convoy has taken over that lead, everybody there in the top 5 on the same set of tyres. So it's not going to be a tyre strategy race here in the top 5. Everybody has the same advantage. It's going to be about how long you can stay in that top 5 and for how long you can stay close to the leader. Now the Aston Martin fights back. Wheeze wasn't going to let that go. He was at the top of the field at the end of quali and he wanted to be at the top of the field throughout the race. That currently got broken. Takes the lead back from Convoy. But if you've seen Convoy on this channel, you'll know he's not going to let that slide. He will come back, he will fight. It's Ferrari, the second Aston Martin, looking to make it a dream night for Aston Martin, currently in P3. If we were able to make up another position, it would be a 1-2. Convoy then has to fight 2 Aston Martins rather than just the one. Martin loses a position down to Pantry Star. Pantry Star getting past on the straight. Does Martin defend? Yes, he does. He holds on to it for as long as he can, and we see a Red Bull. The Red Bull of Pantry Star falling down the field. We saw the collision. That was a big one. We actually got to see it from helicopter cam. So very unfortunate. Pantry Star looking to make up ground in the race. Now finds himself in P10 on some cold tyres. Needs to gain momentum again. Even more important than the momentum, sometimes your mind. You need to get back into the race. You can't let that incident annoy you too much. Can't think about it too much. The longer you think about it, the more you're going to mess up your race. Get your head down, get on with it, and hope for something special. We do have a safety car in Sector 2, I believe. Rather a yellow flag in Sector 2, I believe, but that has since gone away. Top 3 remain the same. Wheeze, Convoy, It's Free. They've built up a big gap down to P4 now, which Pantry Star was holding on somewhat to the top 3. He's gone in the wrong direction. Martin holding on to that outside line, and both cars just running out of space. Levy in P6. We've got Spikes in P7 close behind. And Andre in P8. Oshkotu in P9. And then Pantry Star, who not so long ago looked like a race contender, is now holding on to the points paying position. Ronald, on the other hand, he spent this whole first stint of the race just outside of the points, an annoying P11. Still so much can happen. We still have all of our 18 drivers. This is Divan, Lebby, Andre, or rather Divan, Martin and Lebby, all very close together. Divan leading that field at this time. Lebby trading places with Martin. Divan defending at the front. We've got another DRS train of its own. It's Faris been there in P3. We haven't really seen him in the lead, and from the time we've been watching them, he hasn't really attacked P2 just yet. So it's Faris happy to stay in P3 for now, while Weez and Convoy trade positions, fight for the lead. It's always great when you see a driver driving at this sort of speed. It's even better when you see three of them matching each other lap after lap. Convoy back to the front. He's probably using up a lot of battery in order to do so. It's just confirmation on your screen. So it turns into a bit of an ugly cycle. You have to switch your battery on to make the overtake. Sometimes you have to leave that battery on for a little longer than you would have initially liked. By the time you make the overtake, you look down at your battery, there's not much of it left. And that, well, that is a surprise. That is a surprise. Convoy comes into the pits on lap at the end of lap 7. He's getting rid of those mediums. As for the two Aston Martins, I think that may have caught them by surprise. They've both stayed out on track. Of course, they're very close to each other on track, so I don't think they're going to be able to react on the same lap. They'll get a double stack. The driver behind, in this case it's Faris, will have a huge disadvantage. So if they do have to put one lap after the other, then it's still going to be the driver in P2 that's going to get the disadvantage if there is in fact an undercut on the cards. If there is an undercut on the cards, then I think the McLaren driver Conway may have just got this right. I think I've got people inviting me to potential commentary sessions during a commentary session. Unless somebody's inviting me to drive, which I don't think that is the case. No one would invite me to drive. At the front, it's the two Aston Martins. Let's have a look where those cars are exactly on circuit. They've gone past the pits, so they have not reacted to the McLaren. They've stayed out there. Problem for Convoy is to obviously make up the most of this undercut, to make the most of the advantage. Needs to make sure he didn't come out in any sort of traffic. He did take a bit of time to get past Skull. Speaking of Skull, Ronald comes around the outside, swoops into P10, takes that final point position. Guys are saying thank you, Danny Ricciardo. Of course, a driver that many fans came to love. I think everybody knew this would probably be his last season. Many people knew the door to Red Bull had closed a while ago. But a week ago the reality hit. No more Danny Rick on the F1 calendar. Gonna take a bit to get used to. Of course, but if you are a Danny Rick fan, it might give you a reason to watch IndyCar, if rumors are to be believed. Might even find himself in an unlikely reunion with a certain Zach Brown, who owns a certain McLaren Indy team. Keep your eyes posted. Have our first retirement and our first safety car of the evening, lap 10 of 29. The sky's bare. He is the reason for the safety car. He becomes the first car to DNF. The cars that will be most annoyed by this, cars that were getting away at the front, the cars that were just letting their strategy play out. Safety car will now come and just mix things up a little bit, stir the pot, possibly change the result. Of course, Daniel Ricciardo, 8-time race winner, 7 of those victories coming for Red Bull. The other one, a surprise victory at Monza, obviously for the McLaren team. McLaren getting a 1-2 that day. As you can see, lots of activity in the pits. Ricciardo is also one of the drivers that's driven for 5 teams. I think he's driven for 5 teams. In fact, I think he's driven for 4 teams. There is one driver in the field that's driven for 5. I'm just trying to think of who he is. I think it's Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz has driven for... who's he driven for? Toro Rosso, McLaren, Ferrari. I'm not sure. And he's driven for Renault. Okay, so 4 manufacturers. Making his way through the garage. Or through the pit lane. Interestingly enough, if this was going to change the order in a big way, what it's actually done is Weeze has come out, he's gone into the pits, put on a set of hards, come out in the lead. It's Ferrari has done the same thing. Obviously the double stack didn't mean as much under safety car, so those 2 cars have come together. They've come out in P1 and 3, and Conboy, who was challenging Weeze for the lead the entire way, well, he's slotted right back into P2. So it looks like that challenge will continue. 3 Aston Martins in the top 4 if you can include the safety car. The Aston Martin's currently taken up by Weeze and it's Ferrari, so I can only assume Lance Stroll is driving that safety car. If that is the case, my warning to the entire field is watch out. So Weeze, just see him weaving around using all of the width of that main straight, just trying to generate some temperature into the tires, into the brakes, making sure the car is prepared for when that safety car decides to give its confirmation that it's coming in. It's there. I wonder if he made a mistake, but he got a bit close to the safety car, then we saw some smoke, so a bit of a lock-up. Wonder if that was an error. Of course, I for a long time wasn't much of a fan of this circuit. Since they've made the changes, my opinion has changed. Much quicker race circuit now. They've added more opportunities for overtakes. They've added a DRS zone. Track just feels a lot more open. Not so much stop and go. Weeze weaving around the circuit. See Conboy doing the same thing. All the drivers just prepping those cars for a race restart that is almost certainly coming at the end of this lap. We just have one car adrift from the rest of the field. Not sure if that is a Williams. Either the safety car will wait for that one car, or it will simply pull off. Usually what happens is we have a 3-lap limit under the safety car. So if someone is too far away, that safety car will do 3 laps. If the field closes up before then, might give us 1 lap of respite. But this time round, it's waiting for that car. So we're going to get the maximum 3 laps under the safety car. Guys at the front will be getting annoyed, wanting to get on with it, get back up to race speed, get up to wheel action, opening up DRS, fighting for the lead. At the moment, you're concentrating on all the wrong things. You're concentrating on tire temperature, brake temperature. It's not the sort of stuff you want to be doing on lap 13 of 29. You want to be throwing this car around, fighting for the lead. But instead, you have to sit and wait behind the slowest Aston Martin on track. The drivers now approaching sector 2. This will be the final lap of safety car. Of course, if anyone was to drop behind at this point, safety car would simply leave them behind. When we do get that notification, you'll see Wheeze immediately start to back up the field. He'll allow that safety car to pull off into the distance and get safely into the pits. Once that safety car is in the pits, then Wheeze assumes responsibility, becomes the temporary safety car until we get to the start finish line. He's the one that decides when we go, if we go early, if we go late, and of course there can be no overtaking until the start finish line. This is one of the circuits where it can get a little complicated because that start finish line does come relatively far down the straight. Can't make any overtakes. Of course, we saw some examples of drive-throughs not so long ago. I think that was on Friday night, not broadcast on the channel. But at JPR, one of the leagues taking part in the League v League challenge on Tuesday night, saw about maybe 5 drive-throughs handed out on that particular night. So you want to get this restart right. It seems like everyone there in the top 4. Pretty evenly spread out, not too much action there. A little further back though, Andre in P4. If he's gonna, has he held on to it? Where is Andre? There is Andre. Andre in P5. So he did lose a position. He's now defending from Spikes. Then Divan, Harshkot 2 in P8, Pantrastar P9, Ronald finally into the points. He'll be happy to be out of that P11. Such a frustrating position to be in, just outside the points, especially when you can see that car ahead of you. Wheeze and Convoy. They've now opened up a 1 second gap to its Ferrari. Gap bigger than we've seen all evening. Convoy and Wheeze pushing each other. Remember now, Convoy's going to have a slight disadvantage. These drivers are going to be looking to go to the end of the race on these sets of tyres. Convoy, he made that early pit stop. He pit before everybody else. Everybody else pit under safety car. He pit 3 laps before that. That means he's going to have a 3-lap disadvantage on those tyres. And when we get to the latter stages of the race, his tyres might just be holding on, where everyone else around him still has 3 laps of life to go. I think that's why we're seeing this aggression from Convoy. He knows he needs to get ahead, he needs to open some sort of a gap. But when those hards do begin to drop off, he's got some time to play with. That's easier said than done. You're trying to pass one of the quickest drivers in the field, man that cleared the field by half a second in qualifying. That's who you're trying to make an overtake on. And if you manage to make that overtake occur, then you somehow need to pull away from him. It's not going to be easy. Convoy will be hoping, just apply the pressure, apply the pressure. Hopefully that mistake comes, and the mistake comes from the Aston Martin and not the McLaren. Now getting awfully close, just 0.2 of a second. It's brought SAFRL right back into this battle. He was actually falling out of DRS, but I think Wee's having to do so much defending, looking in his mirrors, looking, where is this McLaren, what's this McLaren doing? It's just taking his focus a little bit away from the next apex, the next breaking point. That's what you should be looking at. But every now and then you're glancing down at your mirrors, wondering what the driver behind is up to. Just takes your attention away from where it needs to be. Wee's into turn 1. Still defending from Convoy. Then it's SAFRL in P3. No difference there. Levy, he's joined the party. This was a battle of 3 before the safety car. It's now a battle of 4 after the safety car. Spikes in P5. He might still get reeled into this battle. 1.4 seconds while those 4 drivers trip over each other. Andre, P6. First of the 2 Williams. Then Divan, P7. Got Harsh Cartoon, P8, Pantry Star, P9, and Ronald making up the points positions. Martin just outside the points, but for how much longer? Not much longer. Trading places with Ronald, side by side stuff, and well, disaster for both of them. Ronald and Martin fighting for that final podium position. They make contact. They both briefly leave the tarmac. Martin leaves the tarmac for a little less time than Ronald. Let's have a look if we can get a good view of the front of that Mercedes. We don't spot any damage on the Mercedes. Let's go back to Ronald Salba. And yes, well, we didn't see the damage. There it is. It's the right-hand end plate. He pulls off into the pits, and he's going to be hoping for another stoppage in this race. Some magic to work out for him. Something that can bring him back. Joe Couture has just gone into the pits, come out on a set of softs. I'm not sure if those tyres will get him to the end. Having a learning experience at the back in a Ferrari. It's only going to get quicker and quicker the more he races. The more he spends time out on track. That's how you get quicker. You race against the best. And here at the front is a very good example of the best. Wees, it's SAFRL. Convoy has now made some sort of error. He's gone down to P3 and handed a 1-2 to the Aston Martins. What's going on there? We see a Ferrari ghosting. That is Joe. That'll just explain the gap. He's either not in control of that car or he's being lapped. Wees, quickest man in the field again, 118.8, fastest lap of the race. He's now just dropped his teammate out of DRS, just over a second. Convoy still very much on the back of that second Aston Martin. Again, just has to get focused. He'll probably be annoyed with losing second place. He was fighting for the lead. All of a sudden finds himself in P3. Needs to do all that work again just to reclaim the position he once held. So he's going to be a little annoyed. He's got to get on with it. And he's also going to have mirrors full of Levy. Want to give the guys further back in the field some broadcast time, but so much action happening here at the front. The top 4 yet to be decided in this race. Currently it's Wees, it's SAFRL, Convoy, Levy, but these 4 cars so close together. One of them makes a mistake into the braking. All 4 of them can trade places. Further back we've got Spikes desperately trying to join that battle of 4. Unfortunately for him, just going the wrong way. Fastest lap goes to it's SAFRL, the man in P2. He's closing up on his teammate. Gap was just over a second. It's now down to half a second. Of course, very early days in the championship, so don't expect too many team orders, even between the two Aston Martins at the front. Both of these drivers, very quick drivers. Both of these drivers want to win the championship. Of course, later on in the championship, when one teammate is mathematically unable to win the championship and the other one is, we'll sometimes see switching between teammates, or one teammate not doing as much defending as you'd expect. But at this stage in the championship, there should be no team orders, and I think we should see a race to the end between the Aston Martins. It all comes down to what this McLaren does. This McLaren keeps on pushing them to the very limit. They may just want to keep those Aston Martins in order 1, 2 and not battle each other too much. They might both potentially lose the win to the Papaya car currently in P3. Levy's still doing a good job to hold on to the 3 cars ahead. Bandry Star now in P5, he's 8.7 seconds adrift. Who was the man in P5? I think it was Spikes. So Spikes has lost a lot of ground. He's down into P10, obviously made a mistake. He's now in the pits. Maybe just leaving the track, getting some damage. Seems like he lost all those positions and then went into the pits. So it wasn't only as a result of the pit stop. We have a caution in sector 3. Hopefully that's all it will be. We've just had the one safety car. That came out, I think it was on lap 10 of 29. We're now on lap 20 of 29, approaching the latter stages of the race. Said the race wasn't over. Weeze has led most of it. Now his teammate takes over at the front. It's Faree has his turn, and he's going to try to pull away from this lot. Not what you want to see. Big mistake from the second Aston Martin. We didn't see what happened there. Was it contact? Did he just make a mistake on the throttle? But either way, it's Faree. We saw him weave across the circuit and then come to a standstill. He does not come into the pits, suggesting there's no damage to that car. It has activated a virtual safety car. He would have preferred a full safety car, so he could have caught up to that field. He's going to be 9 seconds adrift from the battle he was once a part of. So he's going to be really frustrated. Levy does have a 3-second penalty, I believe it is. Let's just get confirmation that it's, there we go, just the 3 seconds. In fact, all the drivers with penalties on your screens, just the 3 seconds. Divan, second DNF of the race, drive-through penalty, going the way of Spikes. I spoke about this earlier. I said we got a few at JPR on Friday night. We get our first one this evening. Was he the only driver to get one? Yes, he was. So Spikes gets a drive-through penalty. A few things to remember about that drive-through penalty is it is exactly what it's called. You drive straight through the pit lane at the required speed limit. You can make no pit stop. The mechanics can't touch anything on the car. You just have to drive through there at a slow speed. And of course, if we do get a safety car, you cannot serve that drive-through under safety car. Convoy leads from Weeze, from Levy. These three so close together. Convoy, he's been threatening Weeze throughout the race. Then he had to fight both Aston Martins. Both Aston Martins got ahead of him at a stage. Saw himself fall down to P3. Didn't let it get to him too much. Could have let the pressure of Levy make him drop even another position down to P4, but he didn't let that happen. Applied the pressure. Then the Aston Martins eventually started trading places for the victory. It's Faree went into the lead ever so briefly before losing out to his teammate, going down into P4. That's only because they had such a large gap at the time. Otherwise, he could have found himself even further down the order. Weeze back to the front, up 22 of 29, and we're nowhere close to knowing who's going to win this race. Wrong menu, there we go. Drive through still next to the name of Spikes. Remember, that is also a penalty that you cannot leave till the end of the race. That does not turn into a time penalty. That will not be 10 seconds added on to your race time. You have 3 laps in which you can go for that drive-through. You choose not to do your drive-through within those 3 laps, you get disqualified from the event, you take no further part in the race, your screen will simply grey out and that will be the end of things. And you'll have a similar view to what I have. You'll be viewing the race from spectator mode. Pantry Star, latest driver into the penalties column. Not so long ago we had a look at the penalties column. There was only 4 drivers in the penalties column. Now there's a whole lot more. We're up to 7. And as I say that, Spikes has come into the pits to serve that drive-through. There we go, we just see the end of it. He emerges from the pits now. Lap 23 of 29. Man who at one stage found himself in P4, now down to P14. Not the result Ferrari would have been looking for this evening. But a brilliant result for the Aston Martin team. Could have been better if Itzbury hadn't made that mistake when he did. But luckily for him, all the work they did during the race, opening up that gap at the front, meant that even with that mistake, he's able to hold on to P4. Remember, Leby does have a 3-second penalty. One advantage Itzbury does have in P4 is that he's got a clear racetrack ahead of him. So while these drivers ahead of him, they'll still be fighting for position, they'll be looking to apply pressure, looking for any gap they can find. Itzbury will have one focus, quick lap after quick lap. That's all he'll be doing. So he'll be potentially closing this gap down to Leby, and if he can close this gap down to Leby below 3 seconds, he should be able to take this position back. Convoy also in the penalties column. I didn't see that. So it's only Wees in that top 3 that doesn't have a penalty. So he's in the lead of the race. And via the penalties, he's about 4 seconds ahead in this race. So he's still in a very good position. I just don't know if he's going to have the tyres to do what he needs to do. Driver ahead of him, Leby on 13 lap old mediums. So it should be advantage Itzbury at the moment. Of course, if any of those drivers choose to pit, he'll be straight back on the podium. That's the gap to watch, the gap between 3 and 4. 5.6 seconds. If it drops below 3 seconds, we're going to have 2 Aston Martins on the podium. I think Wees pretty much confirming things. This is the biggest we've seen the gap at the front. Convoy in P2. Either he's losing pace. Don't think Leby's finding pace. He shouldn't be finding pace. 14 lap old mediums. Versus, what is that, 17 lap old hards. Tires should be pretty much in the same window actually. Just looks like Convoy having all sorts of problems. I wonder if there's any damage to that car. It doesn't appear to be the case, but the Haas looking at clearing the McLaren. And this is brilliant for Itzbury, because the more the Haas and the McLaren battle, the more he's able, with that clear racetrack ahead of him, to close that gap even faster. Not so long ago, 5.5 seconds, now 4.7 seconds. That crucial range, the 3-second barrier. Two Williams, both in the points, P9, P10. They're a line astern in the timesheets, but not on the racetrack. 8 seconds separating the teammates, 9 and 10. Would be a good result for Williams to get both cars in the points. Another team with both cars in the points, McLaren, Mercedes, Aston Martin. The one Red Bull out of the points, both Ferraris out of the points. Great night for some of the teams, not so great night for other teams. 26 of 29, I think we're in the safe territory as far as, oh, don't do that. As I'm about to say something, I see a caution. There we go, it's gone. So I think we're in safe territory. Every time I say it, it pops up on the screen. Well, you can see it at home. It's not just me going crazy. I just want it to disappear before I say it. Can we stop having cautions? It's lap 26 or 29. When they go over the line, it'll be lap 27. And it's too late now, just 2 laps to go. No more safety cars, no more virtuals. Any more incidents will just miraculously disappear from our screen. Ronald, the late DNF, could have caused havoc at the end. Of course, if we got a safety car with a 1 lap shootout to the checkered flag, anything could have happened. Would have seen most of this field come into the pits for soft tyres. Fortunately, that didn't happen. If that incident had happened half a lap earlier, could have had, well, matching our debutante's name, we could have had bloodshed. Wees out front, 3.1 seconds. This is the most comfortable he's had the lead all race. He's had to fight the entire race. He had a pretty comfortable qualifying session, but in the race, really had to fight to hold on to things. And now, he's getting his reward. He's able to finish off this race in some clean air, with some empty mirrors. And now it's all up to him not to make any errors. Of course, Conboy and Levy also have penalties next to their names, so Wees not only has that 3.9 second gap, he can add 3 seconds to it. So almost 7 seconds ahead of everybody else. Ronald not too impressed with his incident and how things turned out. Which can be so difficult out on the racetrack with so many drivers. Sometimes you go for a move, your opponent does not think you would ever go for such a move, and contact is made. Of course, we didn't see the incident involving Ronald, but we will surely see him here next week again. He was one of the contributors to the channel, one of the contributors in the comment section. One of the guys that always shows up. It's great to have you. Unfortunately, not going to get points tonight. But don't let the emotions overwhelm you. Don't be Yuki Tsunoda. Just give it a few moments, take a few breaths. Things usually feel a little better after. So it's still Wees out front. He's opened the gap beyond anything these drivers are going to catch. It's lap 29 of 29. Conboy and Levy still potentially fighting for P2. It's free though. We said that gap, the crucial gap, it was 3 seconds. Well, it's currently 2.3, and then a further 3/10 to Conboy. If the checkered flag fell this very moment, he could potentially take P2, make it a Aston Martin 1-2, even after that unfortunate incident. But it's going to be very, very close, and it's going to be about how Conboy and Levy approach these final few corners. Another penalty for Top Gun in the closing stages of the race. Wees is about to come over the line, surely. There he is. Weaves over the line in celebration. Now it's going to be Conboy versus Levy. It's going to be Conboy out front. Levy P3, but what about It's Free? Has he done enough? Yes, he has. He's done enough. He goes up into P2. And Aston Martin, what a night. Further down the field, Bloodshed, he comes over the line on his debut. We're waiting for Pantry Star. We've got a very late DNF from Martin. That's unfortunate for him, because everybody on the same race lap as him will simply go past him. He's just going to fall out of the points position by position. It's down to P9. Spikes now takes P9. Skull now takes P10, and Martin officially out of the points. Can fall out of the points right at the very end. It doesn't matter until you go over that checkered flag. And unfortunately for Martin de Bruin, he's lost points right at the end. We're going to have to get through these results pretty quickly. Harsh Cartoon takes the driver of the day. Before I get copyright, let's just mute that. And there we go, perfect day for Aston Martin, or should I say perfect evening for Aston Martin, a 1-2. There we go, confirmation Weiss from its Ferrari. That penalty just threw him up into P2. Conboy thought he had done enough for P2, but he's going to finish P3. Then Levy just off the podium. Then we've got Harsh Cartoon P5. Andre, good drive from him, P6. Then we got Bloodshed P7 on debut. Pantry Star P8. Spikes P9. And Skull taking that final point. Further down the field, out of the points, Smurf 11, Top Gun P12, then Martin landed up in P13 as a result of that very late retirement. Chums was 14th, Joe on debut, P15, and then the 3 DNFs, Ronald, Divan, and Disguised Bear. We will now just give it 2 or 3 minutes, see if anybody wants to join the cool down room, come and have a chat about their race. Until then, I'm just going to give 2 or 3 minutes. I just want to see if anybody does decide to join. Sometimes we get nobody, sometimes we get a full room. So we're just going to allow that time to pass. I'll be back with you guys shortly.
On the bends, burn, burn, rivals clash, no amends, oh no, cheering crowd, feel the sound, woo-hoo, SKR, world renowned, renowned, they're the best. NFR, it's time to go. Feel the speed, let it flow. Racing hearts, watch them glow. Turn it up, start the show. NFR, feel the heat. Fast and fierce, never beats. Engines roar, can't stay off seats. Catch the thrill, it's so sweet. NFR, NFR, drama high, stars afar, round the track like a shooting star. Feel the rush, NFR. Lap by lap, watch them spin. Victory's close, who will win? In our heads, the engine's din. NFR, let's begin. NFR, lights are green. Zooming fast, slick machine. Every twist, every scene. Catch the action on your screen. NFR, NFR, yeah, drama high.
Well, welcome back everyone. To everyone who stayed, thank you very much. I don't think anybody's going to be joining the comms box this evening. Everybody a little mic shy this evening, or they're just tired. I want to thank everybody who joined us tonight. Of course, we had quite a few viewers here at a time. If it's your first visit to the channel, please remember to subscribe to get more of these races. Of course, SKR every Sunday at 6, SAFRL every Monday at 8 p.m. And then obviously the League versus League Challenge on a Tuesday night also at 8 p.m. So to everyone who joined, thank you very much. To everyone who subscribed, thank you very much. And if you've been here many times before, remember to leave a like on the video. It helps us out. And until next time, cheers everyone.